We all have these great intentions, right? We want to be more focused, more present. But what happens when our deepest, most automatic habits pull us in a totally different direction? Today, we're going to dive into this incredible story about a man who thought he had the perfect, foolproof plan to control his own mind, right up to his very last breath. What he found out, though, reveals this surprising, powerful truth about the gravity of our own thoughts. So let me ask you this. Have you ever decided, okay, today I'm going to be super present, only to find your mind just snapping back to that one thing? That work email you forgot to send, juggling the family schedule, that endless to-do list? When you stop trying so hard and just let your mind go, where does it really go on autopilot? Keep that question in mind, because it is at the absolute heart of the story we're about to unpack. All right, so our story is about this very devout man, and his main goal in life was to make sure that in his final moments, his mind would be focused on the divine. And he came up with what he thought was a brilliant, absolutely foolproof plan to guarantee it. Now, his system was actually pretty ingenious. First, he named his 4 sons with sacred names: Govinda, Narayana, Krishna, and Rama. Pretty clever, right? Then, step 2, he hired all of them to work in his factory, so they were always around. This meant he could be calling their names all day long, weaving these holy names into the very fabric of his workday. The goal? To make thinking of the divine an automatic, unbreakable habit. I mean, on paper, it sounds perfect. What could possibly go wrong? So, the man lived his life, sticking to this plan day in and day out. Years and years went by. But here's the thing. The real test of any practice isn't in the easy daily routine. It's in those final critical moments. And eventually, that day came. The man was on his deathbed, and his life's work, his whole plan, was about to face its ultimate test. So, with what little strength he had left, he started his final summons. "Govinda!" he called out, and his first son rushed to his side saying, "Father, I'm here." Then he called the second, Narayana, and he too came right to the bedside. Okay, so far so good, right? The plan seems to be working exactly as he designed it. The sacred names were on his lips. He called for his third son, Krishna. You can just feel the tension in the room, right? The family is leaning in. They're probably expecting some final, profound spiritual wisdom. And finally, he called for his last son, Rama. And now all 4 of them are there, standing by his bed. His meticulously crafted plan, his entire life's practice, it had all led to this single moment. The dying man looked around at the faces of his 4 sons. He saw Govinda, Narayana, Krishna, and Rama, all of them standing right there. And then this sudden wave of anxiety just washed over him. He blurted out, "All of you are here. Who is in the factory?" And those were his last words. That was the final thought his mind produced. So, what on earth just happened? After a whole lifetime dedicated to one single purpose, why did his mind in that last critical moment snap right back to his business? This is where the story gets really interesting because it shows us something profound about how our minds actually work. And this really gets to the heart of it. It's a battle between 2 things. On one side, you've got his intention, to think of the divine by using his sons' names. But on the other side, you have his deeply, deeply ingrained habit, worrying about his factory. See, over the years, calling those names didn't actually trigger thoughts of the divine. They became the trigger for his anxiety about work. The habit, it turned out, was way stronger than the intention. This whole failure, it reveals this powerful idea called worldly attachment. And you can think of it like a kind of mental gravity. It's this force that is constantly pulling our attention back down to our everyday material concerns. Let's break that down, because worldly attachment isn't just about owning stuff. It's that powerful, automatic pull of our daily anxieties. For the man in the story, it was the factory. For us today, it's the buzz of our phone with a work notification. It's the budget spreadsheet we left open on our laptop. It's the endless, mindless scroll through our social feeds. It's whatever our mind just naturally snaps back to when we let it off the leash. And this brings us to the biggest lesson of the whole story. Our deepest thoughts, especially when we're stressed or at our limit, they're not created by wishful thinking or some grand last-minute goal. They are literally the sum total of our actual daily mental practice. What we consistently worry about, what our minds return to over and over again, that's what we're wiring our brain to do. Now, it's really easy to look at this guy's plan and see the flaw. It's obvious in hindsight, but the real challenge, of course, is to turn that same lens on ourselves. Because this story isn't just some old tale, it's a mirror. The real lesson here is that every single day, every hour, we are in a practice session for our mind. Those thoughts we keep coming back to, that's what we're training ourselves to care about. The man thought he was practicing devotion, but his real, day in, day out practice was anxiety about his business. So the question this story really leaves us with is a big one. Your life is your practice. What are you actually practicing for?